Hello, dear soul, and welcome back to this space of remembrance. If you've been feeling a strange kind of stillness lately, like the world has lost its grip on you, like the noise doesn't reach you the same way it used to, you're not imagining it. Something ancient is awakening within you. The recent full moon didn't just light up the sky, it lit up something inside your soul, something buried deep, waiting lifetimes to be seen. This isn't just another moment of healing, this is a return to yourself, to the end of a long journey your spirit has walked, through time and form and fire. What you're sensing now isn't confusion, it's clarity breaking through the illusion. You're not here to repeat cycles anymore. You've done the karmic loop, you've felt every rise and fall, and now you're here to complete what no one else could. That's what the energy of this full moon has shown us. It's not asking you to begin. It's reminding you that you are near the end, not in a way that should frighten you, but in a way that should ground you into truth, into the knowing that you're not lost, you're arriving. So if you felt distant from this world, like you're watching a play and everyone else still thinks it's real, if you've sensed a deep shift inside your bones, like something invisible has clicked into place, stay with me. Because in this video, we're going to walk through the signs, the symptoms, and the sacred invitations that appear when your soul is in its final cycle on Earth. This isn't a teaching, it's a remembering. And it begins right here, and so it begins. Not with fireworks, but with a quiet separation that you can't quite explain. One of the first signs that your soul is nearing the completion of its journey is this unshakable sense of distance. Not loneliness, but detachment. You're still in the world, walking the streets, showing up to work, answering texts. But something has shifted. The script no longer makes sense. The roles you once played so naturally now feel foreign, hollow, almost comical in their artificial weight. You laugh when others cry, or cry when no one else sees a reason. You find yourself in the middle of conversations, but you're not really in them. You're watching, witnessing, and somewhere deep inside you, a voice whispers, "This isn't it. This isn't all there is." This detachment isn't a flaw. It's a sign, a spiritual symptom that your soul is no longer invested in illusion. You don't chase status the way you used to. You don't crave belonging in spaces that require you to shrink or perform. And it's not that you've become cold or disinterested. It's that you've seen through the game. You've remembered something that others are still too entangled to notice. That the world we were taught to chase, its approval, its titles, its glittering masks, is not real. And once you see through it, you can't unsee it. You begin to orbit differently. You stop needing to explain yourself. You become okay with being misunderstood. And without trying, you begin walking ahead, not because you're better, but because you're almost done. Then something deeper begins to stir, a kind of sensitivity that doesn't feel emotional in the way we usually describe it, but almost cellular, ancestral, cosmic. You don't just feel for others anymore, you feel as them. Their sorrow pulses through your body like your own heartbeat. A stranger's grief on a passing news clip lingers in your chest for days. A child's silent fear in a crowded room makes your breath catch without warning, and it doesn't overwhelm you, not in the way it once did. It carves you open in a sacred way. You don't resist it, you absorb it, not because you want to, but because your soul has been trained over lifetimes to hold this kind of weight. It's not fragility, it's capacity. You carry collective pain not as a burden, but as a vow, a quiet agreement your soul made long ago to transmute what others cannot yet hold. And you've noticed, haven't you, that this sensitivity sharpened around the full moon, that your heart cracked a little wider, that your dreams became stranger, more vivid, almost prophetic. You couldn't scroll past cruelty without your chest tightening. You couldn't walk through the world untouched. Even small kindnesses shattered something open in you. A smile, a soft word, a silent act of love. Because your soul doesn't just remember your story, it remembers all stories. The ones lived, the ones buried, the ones still unfolding. This level of sensitivity is not for the faint of heart, and yet here you are, holding it with grace no one sees. You may never have spoken about it, you may have thought it made you weak, but what you're carrying is not weakness. It is evidence. You are not just healing yourself, you are finishing something much bigger, something beautiful, something final. And then, at some point along the quiet road of becoming, something you once craved begins to lose its taste entirely. The drama, the debates, the arguments that once sparked your fire now feel like sand slipping through your hands. You no longer feel the pull to correct everyone, to defend yourself, to be heard in every room. Your roar, once so necessary to carve space in the world, is now reserved, sacred, intentional. It's not silence born from defeat. It's the stillness of a lion who no longer needs to prove his power. Because you've been to the battlefield. You've burned with righteous rage. You've bled under the weight of betrayal and injustice. But now, peace has become non-negotiable. You no longer find beauty in chaos disguised as passion. You don't mistake loudness for truth. The parties, the gossip, the hunger to be seen, they no longer light you up. In fact, they drain you. They make your chest feel tight, your energy retract inward, like your spirit is whispering, not here, not anymore. And it's not that you've become passive. You're still the lion. You still feel everything deeply, but you've become surgical with your energy. You don't roar for just anyone. You don't fight battles you've already won in 100 lifetimes. You've learned that the real crown is invisible, and it's worn by those who no longer need the world's approval to feel whole. That is the silent royalty of a soul in its final chapter. And as you pull away from the noise, something else takes its place, something magnetic, unavoidable, a hunger, not for validation but for truth. A fire ignites in your chest, not to climb the ladder of worldly success, but to dive into the mystery of who you really are. You start asking questions that burn through your sleep. Who am I beyond the roles? Why am I here, really? What is this ache inside me that won't go away, no matter how much I accomplish? And these questions aren't born from trend or curiosity. They come from something deeper, a soul-level summons, a calling you can't unhear. You begin consuming knowledge not to impress, but to remember. You touch astrology, energy work, metaphysics, not because it's fashionable, but because your inner being is magnetized to remembrance. You sit in silence and hear messages in the wind. You walk through the world and notice patterns others ignore. Synchronicities speak to you like old friends. You feel pulled to spiritual paths, not because they promise enlightenment, but because they feel like home. And what used to satisfy you, titles, milestones, applause, feels paper thin compared to the raw depth you now crave. And then it happens. The feedback loop tightens. Karma, which used to move like a slow tide, begins responding in real time. You think something, and within hours it shows up in your field. You say something unaligned, and your body reacts instantly. You betray your intuition, and the dissonance echoes like a bell in your chest. But this isn't punishment. This is mastery. You're no longer being trained. You're being trusted. The universe doesn't need to use detours to teach you anymore. It mirrors you instantly, because you've reached a level of consciousness where cause and effect have collapsed into now. You start noticing how powerful your presence has become, not in a prideful way, but in a reverent way. Your thoughts shape the room. Your energy shifts outcomes. You no longer move unconsciously because you understand now everything is sacred. And for a Leo soul, once blazing outward, now glowing inward, this is the true return, not the external throne, but the inner kingdom. The fire hasn't gone out. It has gone inward, become light, become vision, become purpose. And every time you choose alignment over reaction, Silence over noise, truth over validation. You are embodying the final roar. Not the one that demands attention, but the one that signals arrival. The one that says, I remember who I am. I remember why I came. And I no longer need the world to tell me I am light. I simply become it. And as your fire softens into warmth, as your presence becomes more felt than seen, something inside you begins to shift in the most quiet and holy of ways. Service, once a word heavy with duty or expectation, now moves through you like breath. You don't think about how to help, you simply do. You notice what others don't. The tremble in someone's voice when they say I'm fine, the subtle hesitation behind a forced smile, the silence that lingers too long in a room full of noise, and before your mind can even form a plan, your heart responds. You lean in, you offer stillness, you hold space, not because you're trying to be good or generous or spiritual, but because something in you has become wired to ease suffering wherever it appears. You no longer need to be the center. You are the center, even when you're standing in the background. The Leo in you, once defined by the spotlight, has become something richer, more radiant, more timeless. You've stopped craving applause and started craving impact. Not the kind that is tall and loud and easily measured, but the kind that stays. The kind that shifts the air in a room long after you've left. And what's miraculous is how natural it's become. To care without condition, to give without keeping score, to love without needing to be loved back. You walk through this world not as someone trying to shine, but as someone who is light, and in that glow others remember themselves. That, Leo, is the real crown. Not gold, not jewels, but compassion, offered without performance. And then, slowly, gracefully, another layer falls away. You stop gripping so tightly. You stop holding people to roles they no longer fit. You stop mourning what slips through your fingers because you begin to see everything does. The relationships, the identities, the stories you once told yourself, each one rising, each one fading. And instead of resisting the tide, you begin to float with it. You stop trying to make things last. You begin to honor things as they are, even when they're passing. You begin to see beauty not in possession, but in presence. A glance, a laugh, a sunset that disappears before you can take a photo. These things don't make you sad anymore. They make you awake. Where once you roared for control, now you exhale into trust. You understand now, nothing real can be lost, and everything borrowed by this lifetime is meant to return. Your strength, Leo, has not diminished. It has evolved. It has become gentle. It has become wise. The fiercest thing about you now is your softness, the way you let people go with love, the way you let yourself feel without shame, the way you speak your truth and let the world adjust around it. This is what it means to be in the final cycle. Not to achieve more, but to release more. Not to conquer, but to surrender. Not to shine for the world, but to illuminate from within. And what a powerful return that is. For the lion to remember it was never here to rule, but to radiate. To not just live a life worth remembering, but to embody a soul who remembers what it truly means to live. And finally, as the inner fire settles into pure awareness, a strange and familiar feeling begins to rise, not in the mind, but in the bones. A quiet déjà vu that doesn't flash like memory, but hums like recognition. You start moving through life and nothing feels new anymore, not in a dull or lifeless way, but in a way that whispers, I've been here before. The conversations, the crossroads, the lessons, they loop with eerie precision. You meet people for the first time, and yet something in their eyes feels like a continuation, not a beginning. You step into situations and already know how they'll unfold, because some part of you has lived them 100 times over. And it's not fatigue of the body, it's the weariness of a soul who has rehearsed the same scenes across lifetimes, and is now ready to bring the curtain down, not in sorrow, but in completion. You see the loops now. You see the karmic patterns dressed in different costumes, wearing new names, offering you one final chance to choose differently. Not to win, not to fix, but to release. The person who once hurt you returns in a different face. The challenge you once ran from knocks again, softer this time. And you, dear Leo, no longer roar in fear or flame. You respond with stillness, with sovereignty, with knowing. Because now, finally, you understand that this was never about the outcome. It was always about the awareness. You're not trying to fix the story, you're trying to step out of it. And when that moment lands, when you stop scanning the horizon for a sign or a goal or a grand purpose, what emerges is something deeper than peace. It is clarity, the kind of clarity that says, I am not here to become, I am here to be. I am not here to search for the light, I am the light. My life is not a performance, a trial, or a test. It is a remembering, a return, a sacred embodiment of what has always been true. That I am enough, I am whole, I am already home. This is no longer a game to be won, no longer a race to be run. The soul does not need trophies, it does not need proof, it only needs presence. And in this final cycle, Leo, your crown is invisible, but your energy shifts entire rooms. Your presence is not loud, but it is unmistakable. You've stopped trying to earn your place in the world because you are the place. You are the mountaintop. You are the lighthouse. You are the moment before the dawn. There is no need to chase legacy because your very being leaves a quiet, indelible mark on everything it touches. So breathe, not to reach something, but to remember that it has already arrived. You are no longer here to shine louder. You are here to shine truer, and in doing so you remind the world that the journey was never about the finish line. It was about the return to the self who never needed to be found, only remembered. And if you've made it this far, dear soul, then you already know. This message wasn't meant to teach you anything new. It was simply here to help you remember what's always been quietly waiting within you. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're not lost. You are arriving. More deeply, more honestly, more completely than ever before. This life isn't asking you to try harder. It's asking you to become softer, more still, more true to the ancient light that's always lived in your chest. The world may not understand this version of you, and that's okay. You didn't come here to be understood. You came here to embody truth. So as you step back into your day, carry this knowing with you. You are not on the edge of something. You are the something. You are the threshold. You are the closing of one great cycle and the gentle beginning of what comes after. Thank you for being here, for remembering with me, and for walking this path with a heart that still dares to feel. Until next time, take care of your light and let it guide you home.